In the night, the winds were howling.
Log in from my phone and monitor it also as well as a backup.
So just make sure we don't miss anybody.
Absolutely.
Okay, seeing no one for immediate public comment, we'll move ahead to the minutes, which I do not believe we have created yet. With been a hectic week so far, and I don't think we've caught up with the minutes, so we will hopefully catch up with those early next week. Okay, under new business, we have the matter at hand today, which is the provisional ballots cast on Tuesday, November 3rd. At this time, I would ask my fellow board members how they would like to proceed forward in this conversation.
So we do know that we had a late night. Our staff was here. Tisha specifically was here, basically processing all these. We wanted to wait until the 5 p.m. deadline to do these, and we maybe wanted to get a report from her about the status of how far she's gotten through them. And then afterwards, she can talk to some of the categories that she's segmented them into, which would allow us to process them in a little bit more expedient way. Yeah, please.
Tish, do you have a microphone over there?
I do not, but I can talk loud.
There are no press here, so this would only be for the press. But if you wouldn't mind maybe coming up, just so.
Bring your chair around. You can be right here. Right?
Yeah.
I can just lean over. Okay.
Yes, if you can explain to us the process.
Yeah, you can sit here. Why don't you sit?
I'll just pull this.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you can just take that mic over there.
Push the black button.
Okay, so the process is for each precinct, however many are issued, there's an envelope that the poll workers are instructed to put all the voted provisionals in, and they have to record numbers. Then what I do is I only take the sealed envelopes out. I don't open anything. I just have to go through multiple channels in our store system to verify how they should be counted, if they should be counted, if it's partial counts. And we separate with stickers in that way. So there you'll see stickers that say full count, partial count, and if it's partial, what can't be counted, if it's rejected and not registered, or if it's rejected because they're registered in another PA county. I also have several that did a naked ballot, so those are set aside. And I have several that show that they voted. Being here so late, I need to do a little bit more research as to if it was a naked ballot or whatnot, because there's a lot of those, and they're not in any particular order. I just have to flip through all of them. So I have those set aside too, just so you would know if a count was off, why, but I have notes on them that I need to do further research and why.
All the hard work that you've done on such short notice. We know that you only had a finite amount of time to together, so we appreciate that very much.
Well, and I will let you know they are not all done. 1 through 56 is done.
Precincts 1 through 56.
Right, precincts 1 through 56. After we're done today, I will get the rest of them in so that you guys can have those for Monday. But it's a very labor-intensive process.
There may be an opportunity to also, once we get rolling here, to maybe do a few, some that you could go back and do as well, but most likely Monday we'll have to continue the process. And just out of clarity, a provisional ballot that that would count can be run through these machines, correct?
Unless it's a partial.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
And then I believe Jody said those would need to be remade.
And that's how we have Chris and Laura, Wendy, Jolene to assist us with that as well.
Okay. Now I will turn it over to Betsy. Yesterday there was an order from the Commonwealth Court I think we need to address as part of this conversation.
Yes, Judge Robson issued a late afternoon order in which he, in response, I can't remember the docket number, so for the case that was filed most recently on Wednesday morning, saying that any provisional ballots that are tied to a naked ballot cannot be counted until further order of court. There was also an unrelated decision to provisional ballots, a decision late last night by Justice Alito, requiring that the guidance from the secretary, the counties follow the guidance from the secretary that that all the ballots received after 11/3 be segregated and kept outside, not processed, if that makes sense, not put through the machine. So.
And we still are locked. Ours are in a sealed bin. We're not touching them or doing anything with
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we're trying to deal with stuff that did come in on the 3rd, so I don't think that's an issue. But that Robson's decision was specifically about the provisional ballot issue.
Right. My challenge here is, though, without having a complete count of those ballots that need to be separated out, it's going to be difficult for us, I think, at this point, to run any ballots through with relative certainty that they're not impacted by this.
Yeah, the only thing that, I mean, I think Tisha can speak to is if there are ballots that she has processed and determined are not related to naked, which I think she did say that she had some that she.
Oh, okay.
And obviously the ones that are rejected, that she rejected, you can review those and reject certain. And then I think you also said there were some rejected because there's another.
That's correct.
And I think you can address those. I agree on these particular ballots, you can't.
Okay, now, my other question. The ballots that are impacted by the court order.
Sorry, I didn't hear the entire
I think we have a list of the naked ballots, correct?
We do,
And we
yeah.
and today we can pull out any ballots that are.
Any ballot that
Yeah.
was associated to already being voted, you don't even, anything you have that is verified to be counted can be counted. The ones that can't be counted that I came across are in the bin, and either they had a naked ballot or there's the few that need more research. So everything you have that's marked, you can count because they have not voted.
So those are free and clear.
Those in those
Just so
bins,
we're-
correct.
Just so we are clear on that.
Correct.
I certainly don't want to violate any of the.
Correct. Yep, those are
And you're
all
saying
free
that,
and clear.
Tisha, based upon your review of the voter in the SURE system and how they were
Right, because
reported
it'll
into the
flag
SURE
you
system.
if they're already credited for voting.
Right.
If it requires further research.
What happened?
I have some other concerns in regard to mail-in ballot room and guidance that was given to POS and our activities in regard to that. And I don't know if we would like to address that now or later.
I think, from my standpoint, I mean, as its chair, you have the discretion. I think doing the provisional ballots, which is on the agenda, the first item would be good. There are discussion items at the end, but again, as chair, you have the discretion.
Okay, well, I will take that discretion to at least and introduce what my concerns are. On November 2nd at 8:38 p.m., the Department of State sent us, not me. And my first question is, that email was sent from Jonathan Marks from the Department of State. Who in our organization received that email? Was it
Yeah,
Michael?
we all got it.
Did you receive it, Michael?
I would have to check. I don't know. I'd have to check. Would you like to know now? I can stop it on.
Well, no, that's fine. What I need to know is my next question is, based on that email, there was activity at the Penn Stater at the mail-in ballot room and the pre-canvassing room that indicated that individuals had access to ballot information that involved the naked ballots and other disqualified or damaged rejected ballots.
Just to be clear, nobody saw any ballots. It would have been front ballot envelope,
Right.
outer envelope.
Okay, whichever that may be. But at what direction was given the opportunity to view those envelopes?
Sure. So in the primary election, anytime that there was a slice ballot, anytime there was a ballot, we allowed watchers to approach to examine them, look at them. In addition, in the vote by mail processing room for November, we had all of the voters that were allowed to or have been given a I don't think that's appropriate. Put away naked ballots, just saying, trust us, these are naked ballots, no need for you to look at them. I have tremendous concerns with that. So out of an abundance of transparency, we allow the authorized representatives to essentially look, say, yep, this is a naked ballot. And if they would wish to look at the name of the voter, they could do so. And then they would have access to that. It's a similar process for when a watcher when a poll watcher in a polling location examines the numbered list of voters to see who has been there. In addition, when people are calling out the names of voters as well, they can identify those are the people that are actually coming in and voting. So it's really no different from individuals that would want to be a poll watcher examining those lists as well. What they did with that information is out of our control, and it's out of our control at that point.
Well, who authorized the access to these envelopes?
In terms of, are you saying who personally did it?
Yes.
I would argue that the code allows for that to occur.
That's not my answer. That's not my question.
Well, no, but it'd be a similar question to say who authorized.
I want to know who authorized the ability for
Again,
people in that room to look at these ballots.
I mean, I guess
these
ultimately, I was overseeing the mail-in ballot room, but in terms of, so I don't want to say myself, in that capacity, but that ultimately would have been, I would have been in the room there.
Were all watchers that were present given equal opportunity to do this and equal knowledge?
Absolutely. We actually had a watcher who wanted to see the zero tapes, PS 450.
I think you're misreading or misunderstanding what I'm asking. I'm
Yes.
going by the guidance that Jonathan Marks sent on November 2nd, which I'm going to read this just for the record.
Please.
The Department of State had, Dear County Election Directors, the Department of State has been asked whether county boards of elections can provide information to authorized representatives and representatives of political parties during the pre-canvass about voters whose absentee mail-in ballots have been rejected. The department issued provisional ballot guidance on October 21st, 2020 that explains that voters whose completed absentee or mail-in ballots are rejected by the county board for reasons unrelated to voter qualifications may be issued a provisional ballot. To facilitate communication with these voters, county boards of election should provide information to party and candidate representatives during the pre-canvass that identifies the voters whose ballots have been rejected and should promptly update the SURE system. My problem with this process is I believe that this was not a transparent process, that one party had access to this knowledge and the rest did not. I don't believe that the Republican Party, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party had the same access. And what Jonathan is indicating here, to facilitate communication with these voters, the county boards of election should provide information to party and candidate representatives during the pre-canvass that identifies the voters whose ballots have been rejected and should promptly update the SURE system. Were you aware of this policy at the 6 a.m. Election board meeting on November 3rd?
No.
Were you intending to pursue this action? It's a yes or no question.
you're not asking the right question. That is concerning voters that we had, so the ballots we just did, envelopes we just did yesterday. That's what that directive is discussing. That directive is saying that we should have in the SURE system taken the ballots that were, all the ballots that we just gave Betsy and Betsy took notes on. That's what that directive is talking about.
It says that the candidate representatives run the pre-canvass identifies the valid voters whose ballots have been rejected.
Right. Right. That is the return envelopes that didn't have the date, the signature, and all that. That is what that's talking about. We discussed as a board that we wouldn't do anything, or the assumption was we're not going to do anything with them until after election day.
You're missing my point. My point is the people who are in the room, the watchers
Right.
in the room
Right.
at the Penn Stater,
Yes.
were not given equal opportunity for this process. If I asked Chuck Whitmer, who was there at 6:30 in the morning, and I did, whether or not he was informed or told or any information about their ability to do this, he was not.
Well, wait a second. So Chuck Whitmer asked me, Michael, I'd like to see the zero tapes from the DS450. Steve, let me finish.
That's just no.
Let me finish. I either I can answer you. So he asked me, I'd like to see the zero tapes from the DS450. So I took Chuck personally over to see the zero tape or zero printout from the DS450. Are you saying that I should have gone around to every single candidate to, or let me finish, authorized representative say, would you all like to see the DS450? Because then my claim would be that the Democratic Party did not have equal access to the zero tapes of the DS450.
I'm going by the guidance offered in this email, which indicates. Let me finish. That indicates that all party and candidate representatives during the pre-canvass
Right.
should have the opportunity to know that this information was available, i.e., all that naked ballot information.
Right, so I reject your premise that does not talk about naked ballots. We can ask our solicitor.
It talks about
clarification.
rejected ballots. What's the definition of a naked ballot then? Or a rejected ballot?
That would be the individuals who didn't put their date, didn't put their signature, didn't put their address. That's what that's talking about.
Not the naked ballots.
Not the naked ballots.
I would disagree.
Well,
And
Right.
also, you would, I don't think you can disagree that the Department of State, or county boards of elections, we are the ones that provide that information. There was no policy or indication that morning that there should be or would be any action in this regard taken by this board. There was none taken.
okay, so
So I'm challenging you to tell me where this policy and where this process came from, how people had access to those ballots, how that information left the room.
how that information left through. Again, we have a list of voters. Anybody who voted a mail-in or absentee ballot, that by code we have to have it listed in the room. So that's public knowledge. That's in the room. Any authorized representative could request that. None of them did. None of them did. In terms of the naked ballots, one of the watchers' jobs, and if the training didn't occur equally from the political parties or the candidates, I don't know how we can help that. But if anybody would have asked, any of the authorized representatives would have asked, I'd like to examine the naked ballots, actually make sure they're naked. We were all of the, runners or the solutions team table or the registration team table was instructed to allow them to do that. So if only one political party came forward and said, I'd like to see the naked ballots, that's one thing. I will say this, nobody from the Republican Party, to my knowledge, approached and said, I'd like to look at the naked ballots. If they had, we would have said, have at it.
I'm not sure that they knew where that information was available.
I don't want to be too blunt here. Well, then, I mean,
There's an element of fairness in trying to.
correct. But again, if they would have asked, we would have said, anybody, Libertarian Green, anybody or a candidate, any of the candidates, if they would have said, we'd like to look at the naked ballots, that would have been fine. Totally fine.
The other issue that I have
Sure.
is that these policies were in place. This conversation occurred, and you can answer before our next meeting whether or not you received this and you knew about it. I would like to have an answer today, but knowing full well.
What time is on the email? I can take a look.
It is 8:38, Monday, November 2nd, p.m.
Do we know who receives the official emails from state? I mean, where does that go to? I know we have an internal hunt.
Mark, did you
County
receive
does
this email?
elections. But is that just you guys?
I know, to the best of my knowledge, I didn't.
That maybe signed up
I
with
think
this
the
date?
majority of them are election office workers, but I have no idea who else setting up.
I am, go ahead, no, go ahead.
I just was asking who, it also doesn't tell me, I don't know if you have it on your copy, Steve. The only copy I have of this email is what was filed in the pleading, and it says sent to subject. It actually says sent and to Mark's Jonathan, subject. I don't actually have a from or whatever, so I can't answer how that went. So and it may be that the to is a Department of State hunt list that is anybody, it says Jonathan Marks, but it's anybody who is signed up, as you guys said. I don't know the answer.
I have to say, I'm suspicious that anytime there is a email of this magnitude and of this importance that is sent out 11 hours before the general election, the transparency involved and whether it is indeed trying to cover up something or whether it's to clarify something, I don't know what it's doing. I am very suspicious. It's not fair because but let me finish. The thing that has me completely distraught about this is these folks were busy. We're all busy. Nobody's reading these. There's a finite number of people who will even be able to address this. And at this point, I think, first of all, I under a separate cover, I can tell you my reasoning why I think Jonathan Marks is flawed in his presumption here. But that being said, we operate as an autonomous board for elections, and no action was taken by this board. While at the same time, there was access given to these envelopes that I don't know the process for.
So, and I could equally say that the legislation that came out, Act 77 and Act 12, did not give, they did not basically, so the way, if you think about where a polling, the guidance for a poll, not guidance, but in the election code, what a polling location looks like. Code stipulates how many people you have to have in the room, it stipulates per voter and how many machines you have to have, stipulates all this stuff. We did not have any of that in the legislation when it comes to the pre-canvassing room or the, as we call it, the vote by mail processing. The legislation itself was wholly inadequate in giving counties understanding about how do we structure that, what does that look like. And so if you went into ours, Phillies, Lebanon's, York's, etc., York County would, when they would get a naked ballot, they would raise their hand and both political parties would come over and both political parties would take a look at the naked ballot and would be given carte blanche to contact that voter. That's what happened in York County. Montgomery County did a different process. Bucks County, every county looked differently. So so I just say, I appreciate what you're saying in terms of what happened here. It looked different. And so there was no guidance in terms of this is how you set the room up, this is what it looks like. I think we did the best of our ability. In addition, it's going to probably, in terms of the amount of provisional ballots that are in this bucket, it probably will be few, but we'll see. But again, what we're doing is we're segregating them out. We're basically saying we're not going to count them. So
this is more of a process issue for me. As chairman of the board, I knew nothing about this. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know it. And quite frankly, to my earlier point about the other parties that weren't, they didn't know to ask.
Again,
and I am troubled by that when the very directive in this indicates that we have a responsibility to let them know that they can ask.
And I reject your premise. That's not talking about naked ballots. It's talking about return ballot envelopes here at the office that did not have a signature fee, etc. But also, if they had asked, so what we did is when watchers came into the room, we had a stack of the watcher guidance that was released on October 28th. And again, they were able to ask questions. I will say this. I sent an email out to the Democratic chair, Republican chair, Green Party chair, Libertarian chair, and I could find the email, but probably latest October, saying to them, I'd love to give you a tour of the room. I will go through it with you. I will walk you around. I'll talk to you about each of the stations, what they look like. They did not take me up on that. So in addition, I said, if you'd like a virtual tour, I can film the room. I'll talk about every station and send it to you. They didn't take me up on that. I also said, if you'd like to actually join me on a Zoom call, I'll walk around the room, talk to you about it. None of them did. So there was a clear, I'm just setting the stage, there was a clear from that week prior email, they all basically said, we don't have any questions. So if there's I don't want to say ignorance, but if there's sort of like we don't care what you do in the rooms, we don't care what you do in the room. I mean, if they were banging on the door saying, we want to know what's happening, we want to know what our options are, we would have been glad to tell them. Glad to tell them.
Michael, the last sentence of this email from Jonathan Marks, I will read it again.
Sure.
To facilitate communication with these voters, the county boards of elections should provide information to party and candidate representatives during the pre-canvass, that identifies the voters whose ballots have been rejected and would promptly update the SURE system. That is very clear to me what
That's
that means.
funny.
So we're going to have to agree to disagree here, and I don't know what the answer is, but I'm very
Democrat is sitting there saying, "Oh well, I gave him opportunity to go ahead and just look around and check everything out." But the other guy's like, "Hey, why don't we just
I just think the equal protection issue here
Well, I
is
think
very
this
strong.
is, I think this is the reason why Judge Brosnan took his order and has asked the parties to brief the issue. I will say to you that the guidance that was put out, as well as the statute, are not exactly the same. I think the statute starts you with one level and then there's guidance. I should also say to you that the use of the word should in this has meant that there were counties, because it's not shall or must, has meant that there were counties that did not produce any information to any party.
I want to interrupt.
Because they read the word shall, Steve, to mean, should to mean it's your choice. Whereas shall is commandatory. Shall or must says you must do these.
I never had that choice. Not having the information.
I understand that part of your question. I'm just saying that you need to know that counties who did get to see this view that differently.
So can I ask this? Did anybody from the Republican Party want to look at them?
I don't think they knew that they had the ability to look
They
at
didn't
it.
know that we were going to have naked ballots?
I don't think that they knew that there was a process for that
But they didn't.
in the pre-canvass.
Okay.
And that's why the guidance indicates that there should be a process for that in place. And that it could have been an announcement, could have been something posted on the wall, could have been something as simple as telling each of the watchers that day. Anyway, I just want to share one other thought with you, and I guess it's goes back to my concern about this whole process. In the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania Middle District, there was a case that was decided on September 8th. It featured the Pennsylvania Democratic Party and other folks versus Kathy Bucklar. At that time, the Secretary opposes petitioner's request for relief in this regard. She counted that there was no statutory or constitutional basis for requiring boards to contact voters when faced with defective ballot and afford them the opportunity to cure defects. And it goes on to talk about that. But the thing that I really wanted to note here, upon review, we concluded the boards are not required to implement a notice and opportunity to cure procedure for mail-in and absentee ballots that voters have filled out incompletely or incorrectly. And they have one position in this legal matter, and then they turn around and give us another vision of how to deal with things in the future. So I think that's contradictory in my mind. But
I think that is the genesis of the use of the word should as opposed to shall. The Supreme Court said you don't have to do it. And they're saying their suggested guidance is you should do it, but it is not a requirement.
Right. But
and I would also, let me just add
if
one
you
other.
are going to do it, you should contact everybody.
Let me also add that I think this issue, in my mind, legally is irrelevant, and that's what Judge Brosnan's going to rule. Because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said if it's a naked ballot, it's not going to be counted. They did not go on to say if it's a naked ballot, you have an opportunity to cure it and vote again. I think that's going to be what the judge is going to say.
Right. But ultimately, anybody felt that they were told by whoever, for whatever reason, felt that their ballot was not valid, it had been rejected.
I understand.
A lot of, or some of them,
Look,
voted
this
provisionally, which
provisional
troubled
ballot
me.
process is a problem for me as a lawyer.
Right.
Because I took calls from people who were not registered to vote in Center County and insisted that they be given provisional ballots, even though they're registered in another county. And we have routinely said, we're going to at least let you vote provisionally, and then put these guys, excuse the expression, through the craziness of having to go through and say, you don't get to vote here. I understand that. And you have the opportunity today as a board to do what you need to do with the provisional ballots. I understand your concern about what may or may not been the actions of the board. To me, that's an issue that you need to resolve. But right now, I think what we need to resolve is what you're going to do with these provisional ballots, because it does turn out that there's some people who did get provisional ballots, and those should be counted based upon your review.
Okay,
I just want to clarify, just to give you an update on where I'm at. I do not, and you're saying it's 8 o'clock, it's not 5:08? See that email that you got from Jonathan?
8:38
I
p.m.
did not receive it. Yeah, I didn't receive it. I've looked at through my email 3 times, each way, right? It's from Marks, M-A-R-K-S. I did not receive it.
Okay,
But I'll double check on my laptop.
all right.
That's in my office.
We'll move ahead, and thank you for indulging me. That was an area that I felt very compelled to discuss. All right, at this time, let's move ahead to working our way through I think, what's the number, 678 provisional ballot opportunities?
I think it's 550.
Yeah,
Well, it's been updated. That's
Been updated?
The latest number is
that was my
678.
original figure, when I did the chart, she had the Penn State, 142.
Oh, they were outside. So the 550 was the non-Penn State ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
without them, and she was working on them, I did not have that in the total, so the original total, 678 was accurate.
Okay, what's the board's pleasure to proceed?
Like, in terms of precinct order, I think that makes sense.
When do you want to look at these naked ballot provisionals? Do you want to look at anything until you have a little?
I don't think we should look at those at all.
They're segregated.
Yeah, I think we segregate all those out because we don't know what's going to happen.
And I guess just one point. Yeah. Okay. We'll
Recording is on.
I'm gonna minimize this.
There's some pretty distracting images coming
Yeah.
out.
It's just people working their phones, I guess, or whatnot. I'm also gonna put the volume down out here. A little bit of that.
Recording is
All right, so where do we want to start? Do we want to do this numerically?
I think
By
typically
precinct?
when they do the official count, they start 1 and move up.
Precinct 1. Okay. So they all over here?
Yes. Now they're out of order a little bit for 44 and because it's huge.
Sorry. No, I'm just.
Well, I was gonna say, you'll need them to start you on how they start into the envelopes. The only one that's actually broken out into groups within the precinct is the DJC because it was so huge. The other ones are just interlaced in the envelope. They're not grouped by rejected, not registered, so you'll just kind of have to look through those. But the majority of the precincts do not have that significant number that the DJC had.
Maybe Jody or Joyce, since one of you have done the provisional ballots, you can walk these guys through that.
precinct number 1, North Bellefonte. And he says he has 2 provisional ballots. He's got 2 provisional ballots. And one is a full count. The other is rejected, not registered. You would open this one, pull the ballot out.
What's the will of the board?
This is the one.
Just for everyone in here, they're not just willy-nilly determinations on rejections. Like, I go through all aspects to look into before that's determined.
What you've done in every other election.
He validates them. That takes so long. It's a full count and a rejected, not registered.
Actually, I think we're gonna need 3 ballots.
Well,
3 categories.
Yeah, you have.
Actually, you have more than 3 categories. You've got a full, partial, rejected. I mean, unless the rejected ones you then put in subcategories.
Joyce,
Three enough, or do you need a 4?
I don't know if it matters, Joyce, but those don't actually have the precinct number written on them. If there's any kind of tracking to the outer envelope that needs to be done, they'll need to write that
Can
on.
we just stack these in here appropriately and then
we'll put the precinct number
everybody
on.
wants to review?
It's only on the outer.
Yeah. Well, you put it back in, yeah.
Okay.
This is a full count.
That's a full count.
Okay, we
This
will, we
is-
will place those in this bin. How about that?
Processes, you go through them and then open them.
Do we want to go put them over here just so we can all take a look?
Oh, okay. All right.
This is the rejected. This will be the rejected and placed back in the precinct envelope.
I have a big post-it note or
Yeah, why don't we
paper with
tape
tape on
the
it?
yellow
I
graphic
just
tape?
don't want to get distracted and lose focus and put something in the wrong bin.
Then I'll leave a purple marker.
Precinct 2, Northeast Bellefonte, and they have noted that they have 10 provisional ballots.
So we're gonna have full count.
And
We have
didn't we
one.
have 2 ballots from Bellefonte 1?
One's a full and one's a reject.
Yeah, I don't think the reject.
She's putting the
Oh, the rejects don't
rejected
make it
ones
down.
back in the envelope.
Oh,
And there are 10 here.
Oh, we don't have to keep them, we don't have to keep them separate?
She's putting it back in the precinct envelope.
Okay. So,
We have
okay,
full,
so what do we have over here then, Joyce, just once again? Full, what else?
Full, partial. If you're separating out the rejection, it's rejected, not registered, and rejected, registered in another county in PA.
So what's
But
going?
those are gonna stay in the envelope.
Yes,
So
what's
the
going?
rejected ones will place back in this envelope.
We just need 2.
You just need 2, right, because you wanna separate the partials.
Correct,
Those
because
are
they
gonna
will need to be
differently.
remade.
This one is,
Real quick, just for our listening audience, can you explain what it means by being remade?
Right, whenever you have a partial count, what that means is that some of the races, they were qualified to vote in, others they were not, such as the congressional district or a legislative district. So if they were voting in the wrong congressional or wrong legislative, that particular race, they were not entitled to vote on. So if they did, or even if they didn't, it wasn't a valid ballot for them to vote on. So then what we would do here, and our teams have done, they will take that ballot, they will read the races that the voter was eligible to vote for, and then not the legislative district. And then that ballot would be fed through. So we would be putting the races that they were eligible to vote for on that ballot.
And that happens when they're voting in a precinct that they're not registered in. They're registered in Center County, but they're voting in a precinct that is not theirs.
Right. That answered the question.
No, it's good.
Okay.
Let's move on to
Okay.
questions.
so this is gonna be the partial bin, nothing in here except a couple rubber bands. This is the one for the full, little scrap of paper and the 1 ballot from Bellefonte 1.
this is Bellefonte 2. I say what? Northeast. We have 10 provisional ballots. I counted the envelopes. There are 10 here. The very first one is rejected incomplete affidavit. The affidavit was not complete, and that is a requirement.
And if the board wants to examine those like they did with the affirmations, how about it?
So essentially, each one of these are like a mail-in ballot. They have to complete an outside affirmation, right?
On these, they have two sections
Two
where they have
sections.
to sign.
Right.
So if either one is incomplete, that's how I determine
That it's rejected.
do you want to look at anything or you want to make a determination otherwise.
And that is all done at the polling place, and they are given those instructions by the judges of the election.
Yeah, and the judges' elections have to sign stuff too, but I mean, everyone's human. They're busy.
They've been working 10, 12, 14 hours.
Second one is a full count. Number 3, a full count. Number 4, a full count. Number 5, a full count. Number 6, a full count. 7, full count. 8, full count. 9, full count. And 10, full count.
Joyce, just to note, a couple of your envelopes are going to be missing one or two because they're tied to a naked ballot, or ones I need further research, so I need them separated.
And they're not in this.
They are not, no, because it would be a nightmare trying to find them.
Right.
Okay, this is precinct 3, South Bellefonte. They have 6 provisional ballots, and they are negative. The judge did not see the voter envelopes, so they were not placed in any envelopes. The board decision is to count these ballots. We need to get the ballots back. He was short an individual right off the bat that morning.
Yeah, one of his poll workers no-showed, so he was short-staffed. He didn't have his materials laid out properly as he normally would, and then encountered machine problems. So when I called to question him, that is what he explained to me. As soon as I called him, he knew exactly what I was calling about. And what I was referencing. And that's essentially what he told me. He knows that, it is his wrongdoing. But that's all I got. He told me what happened. It was, his fault. There's no excuses for it, but that's what he provided me. Short-staffed, machine problems, and just hecticness that he did not have all the paperwork laid out properly.
My thought on this is that we have a problem that needs to be separated from the rest of the
I would agree.
conversation. So if we can actually provide that to Betsy.
Do we have any way to know who these?
Well,
No way to qualify these.
No,
way.
because you don't write them in the number list of voters because it's not cast into the
We
machine.
have no way to tie those to a voter.
I do appreciate the wanting to get more advice, but I think it's fairly simple. These
No.
Right. No, I understand that.
They can't
But
count.
it's-
Just their
So-
affirmation.
So would they go
envelope
back
is
to,
all
they
that
would go back
ties
to this way? The rejected, you're saying over here?
Yeah, I don't think you have any way. If you can't discern who these voters are, you can't vote them.
Yeah.
Great. That's a note for the
You want
future.
to take a question from the chat? Now we just wonder.
Yes.
The question is on the chat, they're asking if non-county personnel present in the room.
Are there non-county personnel present in the room? Yes, the answer
Right
is
now,
yes.
yes.
When you say personnel.
People, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. Non-county personnel. So basically, are there people who are not affiliated with county government
Sure.
with us today?
Sure.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, it's a public
Yes.
meeting.
Here we are, precinct number 4, Bellefonte Southeast. They have noted there are 10 provisional ballots. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10 in the envelope. Full count. Full count. Full count. Full count. Full count. Again. Full count. Actually, they are all full count.
Okay, thank you.
Bellefonte West, he has voted 9 out for provisional ballots.
Oh,
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 in the envelope. A rejected incomplete affidavit. There's 1, 2, 3. Rejected, not registered. 4, 5, 6, 7 full counts.
So just to be clear, the signature is missing on here from the voter affidavit for provisional ballot. But it is still there for 4.
They have to sign before and after.
This would be my take. For any of these, I'd like to have the judges of elections for any of the ones that failed to, because it really is incumbent upon the judge of elections to make sure that the voter is filling this out. This is a very complicated document. It would be beneficial for us to probably pull. I would require all judge of elections to go through a provisional ballot training specifically on this, because I'm concerned that, again, we have this precinct is, I mean, it's the same precinct, but for some reason they didn't verify them. So that'd be my suggestion to the board, would be to have some sort of.
Yes, given the circumstances we've seen up to this point, it would be helpful. Because this document has changed over the last, this used to be green. It used to be different than it appears.
All right, so
These are
do I
rejected ones.
pass the
Yeah,
rejected ones
back to
back?
that, yeah. Board can always go back through the rejected ones once we've dealt with the ones that we have to look at very specifically. Let's
Bless you.
Center Hall Borough have noted that they have 5 provisional ballots.
Before you do this, Joyce, I'm sorry, there is another comment Natalie sent in, which is, they need the names of who is in the room and what they're doing. Are they watchers? Yeah. So everybody except for county personnel would be, I would assume, watchers. Or, but again, watchers really are. This is a public meeting.
It's a public meeting.
Right, so there's no need, there's no need
Yeah.
for watcher certificates in a public meeting.
And just so y'all know, you see a green envelope and you didn't see it in the other
Well,
one. The green envelope is what the stuff is packed in to go out.
Yes.
It's not required for them to put it in to come out.
I will just note, in some counties, some counties are saying one party, one watcher, et cetera. So it's been hit or miss. So I think we're being very transparent and open to that.
Well, any more than we require the people that are watching this
Yeah,
through Blue Jeans
Again.
to be of any persuasion. And
Well-
this is a public meeting.
In addition, yeah, these not every county is doing this type of thing where they're live streaming it. So just
Right.
didn't note that as well.
Okay, this is Center Hall Borough with 5. There are 5 in the envelope. Very first one, rejected incomplete affidavit. Second one, rejected incomplete affidavit. Number 3, rejected, registered in a Pennsylvania county other than Center.
Are you allowed to accept a provisional ballot in a precinct within Center County, subject to the partial issue?
Yes.
Correct.
If they're in another county, you're not allowed.
Right.
This board is not.
Doesn't
allowed.
cross county or state.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
As noted, his voter ran ballot through scanner, which they do not, but there seems to be a ballot in there. So the note is, according to the above notation, this ballot has already been counted, but should not have been.
I'm wondering if
Registered
they
in
pulled
your
it,
county.
I'm wondering if they pulled it out of the,
Is there a ballot in here? There is a ballot present, so it couldn't have been run through the scanner
If they opened it up and pulled it back out, but they did not put it in a secrecy envelope.
Well,
So.
Right, because that notation that was on there, I did not put on there. I just highlight it and let you know if that note's on there, because there's several other that it would have indeed have been a full count if the person had not fed it through the reader, just so everybody can know that, yes, it was done inappropriately, but it would have indeed been a full count coming to the board.
how is it possible for someone to get through the scanner and it not drop into the collection bin?
Well, it probably would have, but when they realized their mistake, I'm assuming they took it back out of the bin. Is that what you're
And
saying?
we'd have to ask the judge.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't-
that needs
They
clarification.
are marked with a green.
Yeah, but we have to ask the
Yeah,
judge. We
right.
can't. Well, actually, if it was run through the machine, you'd have a digital image on the stick back there, wouldn't you? So we could verify it that way, right?
It would be that green stripe on there indicating provisional.
Is that to be voted, was that approved though, to be voted?
It would have been a full count if it came to the board. If it was indeed fed through the reader, then it's already been counted. But their record then can also be counted.
The record should reflect one extra vote.
Well, the way that we have to report it to the state is we have to put provisional ballots on a side, basically.
Right,
Another
and
category.
if it was fed into the reader, your numbers should match, including that one.
But they're registered in York County.
I would say if Monday.
No, what's the note at the bottom? What's the note that I wrote? They wrote York County, they're not registered in York County.
They're registered
And you
in
have
Center.
Mark registered in York County on your note.
Oh, okay.
What is the sticker say? Rejected. Okay, so if this was read through, we need to know that and delete it from the count, right? Correct?
We could go back, I guess, to the digital
Right,
image
exactly.
and do that.
Yes, we can do
That may be the only remedy we have access to.
Yeah, I will let you know there's several more of those. Now, I didn't remember what that one
Several more
was.
that would run through?
Yeah.
Okay.
And those ones would have the notation, whether it would have been a full count, I didn't know what that one was, I'm sorry. Or what category it fell into, even though it was already fed in the reader.
So that should be held aside for Jody to look at,
Yes.
to go through and verify where it needs to go.
So do we want to get another bin that's, all right, or reuse one that's.
Well, I still have an extra one over here.
Steve, Mark, have one?
What do we want to call that?
Jody to check.
The potential run through?
Yeah, those are just regular.
Okay. As you were.
And there's 2 full counts, so there are. Precinct 7, that was hard for. I didn't indicate on there how many there are.
We'll find that
We
out.
have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. All 6 are full counts.
We do have a question here that says, maybe for you, Tricia, if you could maybe just repeat this one more time.
Okay.
Are ballot rejection decisions made prior to knowing how the voter voted?
What do you, I don't know how the voter voted.
Well, then
Yes,
answer
so
would
the
be-
answer is yes.
the
I mean, if
answer
they're asking what candidates they voted for, I have no idea. So
Yeah.
the envelope
No, you don't see,
We
you
don't
don't
open
see the,
No, the
We don't
envelope
open
vote
the
has a
envelope.
secrecy envelope. It should have a secrecy envelope. on
It's
the
strictly based off of registered, where you're registered, if you voted in the wrong precinct. I have no idea who they voted for.
I'll take one.
Yeah, sure. Here's one that's a little.
Yeah, so inside of here is a secrecy envelope that has the ballot in it. So the only thing that we're verifying, Fish is verifying, is the actual outside of this. We don't go inside here until today, later on
Right.
today.
And you'll find some where they didn't seal the flap. Again, I don't touch them. I look at the outside and verifying purposes. That's all I do.
So, yeah, somebody mentioned on the chat here, I think Natalie had to jump off, she has another engagement, but somebody else said, when I bang an envelope on the table, they can't hear what I'm saying. I apologize. Duly noted, duly noted. So,
Okay, Stroudsburg Borough has notated that they have 8 provisional ballots. There are 8 in this bunch, and they are all full counts. Millheim Borough, same phone number there, but we'll find you. We have 1, 2, 3. And they are all full counts. Phillipsburg First Ward, they have noted 6.
while you're counting, Joyce, somebody asked if this is the process for every election, and yes, it is.
They have 6. There are 6 there. The very first one, full count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are all full counts. Phillipsburg Second Ward,
Still, there's a massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, people have no idea. When they think that the provisional should be counted, it's a labor-intensive process.
They did not note on the envelope, but I counted 10. But you have circle, there's no sticker on it, so that's a rejection in the affidavit.
Well, I might need that one to make sure I have it entered in the portal then.
3, 4, 5, 6,
So that means
8, 9 full counts.
Yeah, this one would be one that I would suggest would count. We obviously know that it was voted on that date, and the name, his printed name is. I would see no issue with that one. But that's, how do you get it marked?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What?
How do you have that marked in the sticker?
There's no sticker.
It would have been a rejection, so I'm gonna need that one to make sure. I might have just forget to put the sticker on it and actually entered it in the portal. Because typically what I go through is the whole stack first, and any that are missing something, I do those first.
Yeah, there's a need. Is there a need? There's not a need for attention.
Yeah.
Betsy, do you have any on that? I don't know if we want to hold them for later.
Yeah, I think we are holding all the rejected ones.
Back in there,
Yeah,
just say envelope.
Yeah, just to make
If you want
sure.
us to, we can go back through them.
I would pull that. I personally would pull that out for.
Yeah, I want to make sure first that and then I'll put my normal sticker, and then, like I said, any of the rejected ones,
Because it
you
doesn't-
guys.
You want to pull it out because it doesn't have a sticker on it.
No, I think my personal belief that should count. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. The only thing they're missing is their printer name and date. They have that elsewhere, and obviously the date is that date, and that's.
And that it's an eligible voter, to the best of your ability to know.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so that's
Well,
I think we're gonna
double
have to go back through them though, because you didn't look at, some of those are already in, we've already gone through some
No.
that were declaration issues.
We've never, no. Everything that's going to the rejected or back in, we have a signature.
Yeah.
That one that's the first one I've seen that has that
Oh,
actual
okay.
signature.
Yeah, but I
As long
guess
as
you'll
that's its only defect.
That's my,
Okay,
yeah.
I gotcha. So it had both, the others all had both signatures, is what you're saying.
No, all the other ones,
others were missing at least.
yeah.
Okay,
That one, that's the first one that
that's
we,
had everything.
except for
except that.
date and
Okay.
name, so, yeah.
Phillipsburg Third Ward, they've noted that they have 3 provisionals. There are indeed 3 envelopes in there. And all 3 are full count. Fort Matilda Borough has notated that they have 1. And it is a full count.
Well, now,
Snowshoe Borough?
hold on. This does not have the signature of the judge of elections.
There's several of those, but I didn't flag them for that. I mean, I only
What?
flagged it for voter stuff. These things are up to your determination. I don't know if those are missing.
They didn't sign off
The judge will.
Right.
on,
I don't-
on any ballot. How many,
There's just one.
did they sign off on the outside of the envelope?
That's what's,
Yes,
oh, and then,
the envelope was there.
and they're indicating,
Oh, wait,
Yeah, that's this one.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's this one, yes,
And they're indicating that one was returned.
yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I don't think you
Okay.
can disenfranchise.
Yeah, I don't normally flag for that, and I figured if there was a flag from you guys could
Yeah, no, that's.
determine that.
Snowshoe Borough has notated 2 provisional ballots, there are indeed 2 envelopes, and they are both full counts. Rush North Central notates 6 provisional ballots. 1, 2. There are indeed 6 ballots. And all are full count. Precinct 16, State College has noted 3 provisional ballots. We do have 3 provisional ballots. Rejected, not registered. And the other 2 are full counts.
We'll send all 3 down for, the top is the rejected.
Oh, there's a full count here, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, just.
Yeah,
two full
Yeah, just
counts.
one.
2 full counts. Thing 17, State College Northeast
Full
have
counts.
noted 5 provisionals. There are indeed 5 provisional envelopes.
Did,
And all 5 are full counts. Precinct 18, the State College precinct. They have noted they have 26 provisional ballots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 10, 15.
Recording is on.
21, 22. There are indeed 26 votes. Rejected, registered in Pennant County other than Center. Another rejection. No rejection, I'm gonna put full count here. Full count, partial count, which is no congressional.
There.
2 here, so.
Your first partial?
yeah,
I think partial will.
Yeah,
go-
partials are over there. I just.
Okay.
These are.
That's a rejection.
That's-
Rejection, registered other than Center County. Again.
For everybody in here, this is one of the
Rejected.
precincts where there's a large student population that lives in the area. That's where you're going to see the majority of those rejections, that they're not from Center, but they're from somewhere else in the state.
Rejected.
This is not registered.
So they. Rejected. Rejected. Rejected.
I think you all saw the stickers on what the determination was. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 full counts. Number 19, there is one out.
Yeah, it's either one of the naked ballots that cast a provisional, or it's one that I need to do further research because they're showing that they already cast a ballot.
So they have noted there are 11 provisional ballots cast in this precinct, minus the one, so we'll have 10.
Just very quick, Joyce, in terms of how best to catalog them, so you were saying there's 678 that we started with. Is it possible to do, obviously we're going to know the full counts because we're going to read them through, and obviously we're going to know the partial counts because we'll read them through. Is there a way that we can break down, or can you break down out of Shore, can you just print something that will say rejected for
I
this year?
can, I'm not sure if I can print it before I have to certify it, and I can't certify it if they're not all entered. So after they're all entered and I can do that, then you should be able to get a report. I can check to see if I can get it prior to that. I'm just not certain.
Okay, thank you.
It's 11 minus the one that was withdrawn due to that reason, so we should have 10. Page 9, 10, okay. And all 10 are full count.
Which precinct was this one?
It's precinct 19.
19.
All right, working away. from
State
the
College
zero
South one.
Precinct 20, South 2. They have noted that they have,
there.
7.
Oh, wait, sorry. No, I thought I gave you.
No, they were just. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, as noted. And all full counts.
Oh, there's a partial one in here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Partial count, no legislative, so it was voted in the incorrect.
Out of curiosity, what did you stick on?
I think it's hand.
No,
There's
On the
no
back,
listed.
no, it came that way. No.
Yeah, they take the check.
Oh, yeah, that's the 6 feet. The social distancing tape.
I was gonna say I don't touch anything.
Yeah, they probably didn't want to lick it.
They're being creative, Michael.
They are indeed resourceful.
Precinct 22 has noted that they have 9 provisionals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9. Okay. Full count, full count. Registered other than Center County. Full count, another. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 full counts.
Thank you.
You have an envelope.
Yeah, I do. No, this is the one you just read.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is precinct 23, and we are missing one because Tish has to, it's either make a ballot or she needs to research.
They have noted 9, so we should have 8.
Again, this is a full count, but the voter didn't sign there. I'll be okay with that one.
Sorry.
That's okay. It's okay. We may need to flag this one. They have at least one signature.
Yeah, and nothing is credited to their system. It's merely just
Right.
data entry,
Right,
and the status can be changed.
Yeah, but I think we
We've got some in there that you.
Correct.
we rejected one.
I think you need to make a decision, which you can make as the election board if both signatures are required.
Well, I know, but we already rejected.
I understand, but you can go back and look at those, that's my point. You
Okay.
guys need to decide.
Well,
Pick
why don't- Okay, well, yeah, then why don't we,
Flag that one, and
yeah,
we'll come back.
You wanna-
Back around.
are you holding the flag ones? Tricia, I'm sorry.
Want to write, cross that out.
I thought you had a flag one.
Well, essentially, I'm keeping the ones that are rejected, which would be missing the voter signature.
Depending upon what you guys decide, okay?
But then we need to.
Correct.
Later.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. And it was just a great show.
You're okay, you just know how, you all know how good you are.
Okay. They have
Write
noted
everything down.
that there were 9.
You do those.
We pulled one for either a negative ballot or whatever.
What number are you on right now, Joyce?
23,
Okay.
and I only have 6 envelopes.
How many was there?
They noted 9.
Okay,
We took one out.
okay. So that's what was in the envelope?
Yes.
So we'll have to go looking then because they all stay with the envelope and they're entered only that precinct at a time and put back together. So if they're saying they had more than that, you'll have to go count how many ballots they actually
How
used.
many have actual ballots they used? Okay, put the whole thing aside.
So there is a ballot in here?
No,
No.
I just want you to verify there's nothing inside
And
there.
verify there's only,
So Joyce, you'll
7.
have to make some kind of note for that.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So we're missing one essentially.
So it says on
one
your.
here was
No.
It
removed.
says
9.
9.
Yeah.
And Tisha has one set aside
Set
for
aside.
further research, so there's one not accounted for.
Well, you would have the stub of the.
Yeah,
ballot
the,
stub.
Right. Yeah, because I literally take one at a time, suck them out, and they go right back in their envelope. I don't actually count them to verify. I just enter.
By my count, there's 7. Been counting all week.
Yep, 7.
so we can verify how many actual provisional ballots were removed from their packet and they're still in the office.
I would say if there's a discrepancy, so if it's absolutely 9, I would say call the judge of elections. Talk with them. See what happens. Do they keep any records of provisional ballots in terms of how many they issued or anything?
That would be on the report though.
We keep it's on the report, but they don't have anything on their person with them now.
Want to process that before we,
Oh, I just.
where we're short one?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Process.
All right, then we'll just.
Yeah.
Find out, was that one ballot spoiled? And
All right.
Put it in the envelope?
Yeah, cookie.
Okay, this is 24 right here.
Which is this.
I don't want to do that one.
Do we want to save it for last?
Do you want to over?
Let's do 24.
No, sorry, this one's 44. There's 24.
24 should only have 1.
It has one. This was the envelope that materials were shipped out in. And yes, we have one. The full count.
Full count it is. That was Andre's one original ballot.
Wow.
They all got pushed off to 44.
Was there any reason?
State college.
So it's -1.
Mhm.
All right. They have noted there were 44 provisional ballots. We have removed one for a reason, whether it's a negative ballot for some reason. So we should have 43.
Spread them out here if that makes it easier.
Two,
Which one is this
three.
one?
26. another student populated.
So there's a question on here about if somebody went to vote and they were listed as inactive, how long would it take to become active? And
As soon as their vote's credited, if they voted, they would be made active.
So if they're an in-person voter on election day, you start to scan the poll books. That's when they become active. Okay.
If they voted actually in any way, even if they were inactive and they didn't go vote in person,
Right.
any
If they
change,
cast a ballot.
any change or voting to their record other than, we changed the polling place would reactivate their record.
Okay.
And we do have 43 ballots.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How somebody get listed as an active?
So there's several reasons. Either you have missed 2 federal elections, which is the course of 4 years. The 5th year, you flip to inactive, and that means you had to have not voted or made any address changes, party changes, name change. You've changed nothing on your record. At that time, you are sent a letter notifying you are inactive by this date, and it's something determined out of the system. It's like another year on top of that. If you do not make changes, if you do not return this letter, if you do not vote, your record will be canceled. You can also be marked as inactive if we send you your voter certificate and it's returned. You're marked undeliverable because that's considered an official election document and it cannot be forwarded. So it makes you inactive. And basically those people, if they show up at the polling place, there is an affirmation of elector paper they sign and then they can vote traditionally. Not right that minute. When we scan the barcode that credits their voter history saying they voted, that's when they would be reactivated. But it doesn't prohibit them from actually voting.
Thank you.
Yes.
These are rejected.
For various reasons, yes. We have 22 full count.
This would, well, I don't know if we want to separate this one out. This is another one that has one signature on one side, but not the other side.
It would still go in the rejected. Y'all's gonna have
You're gonna have
to relook at these because the rejected ones in this pile from earlier still contain where there's only one signature by the voter. So we can revisit these and pull those out should you make a decision to do so.
That would be another one. We're not pulling them out right now.
Correct.
Okay. You want to highlight that one? It doesn't matter, not matter.
Is it not highlighted already?
I think it was split up, hold on.
Yeah, it did. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to say I didn't miss one because I missed that one.
Right, thank you.
Another substantial number.
I had 21 here. That we had. Is that how many rejected we had? 21.
Should be because we had the two together will make the 43.
Okay.
Count each file.
What I would suggest, I see a screenshot there, and I think that needs to be on there.
Yeah, so this is 22.
Did I white stuff out on it?
No.
Do I have a note on it? Yeah,
That's interesting. Is that one of the old stickers?
it is, yeah,
Wow.
like our
Okay.
original.
All right. That will still work.
Yeah, because the portal doesn't recognize numbers because everybody's are different. You just enter the number so it associates for the when the voter tries to check their status.
There we go. That works.
And there were 22 there, so 43.
On precinct 29, they have noted 39 provisional ballots.
Jody, is that one the ones on my list?
Let's see. Full count. No, so that was the one that was finishing up that precinct.
26.
So it was the question. Precinct 26 just had 43 total provisional ballots. 22 of them were full count. 21 of them were rejected. The question. Do we yet know how many ballots we received after the 5 p.m. or the 8 p.m. to 5 p.m.? Do we have that yet?
You sent that to me and I saw that list.
The number. Somebody was just asking.
Yeah, I did the math in my head. It's I think
That's
it's about 150.
Okay.
And is that all of them, like not just?
Let's get before we start. Let's
Yeah,
get-
because you had some at the bottom that were right.
Yeah, 'cause I had Sam maybe.
Yeah, just to be clear, I just looked at the statute, so let's do this so you know. A provisional ballot shall not be counted if either, as I read either, that means both. The provisional ballot envelope under the clause 3, which is signature after the fact, or the affidavit under clause 2, which is the signature before the fact, is not signed by the individual. So I think if you're missing a signature, the code says you don't count it, which is why you rejected it. So that's
why you're here.
Well, but there was,
There was one, I think you saw that there was 2 signatures.
Right, okay, we need to go back through, yes.
right. So that
Yeah, that language applies to the signatures.
So that would count, and that one that we just gave Fisher, we gave a questionable one.
Not
That
signed.
one there, which one's that one?
Yeah, it doesn't talk about,
Now, I still need to verify.
it doesn't talk about the information. And that section specifically only says is not signed by the individual. It doesn't talk about whether the information is.
Yeah, so state anything about the judge as well in the back of it, because I know we had one ballot where the judge didn't sign, but they signed the envelope and the board allowed it, so I didn't know if there was
Yeah,
any.
I don't think
Michael,
so.
as long as
Okay.
everything's valid,
Yeah, the
he
ballot's
registers
done
it would
everything
be
right, yeah, I don't think the judge affects it.
Okay.
I'm looking at the statute, 25 PS 3050, subsection 5, 2, little Roman numeral 2, and there's a series of things. It also says in here incidentally, which we think may be a conflict is with, you are also not supposed to count them if the provisional ballot does not contain secrecy envelope. So if it is a naked ballot under the statute, it does not get counted as provisional.
I know there are some because I visually could see until I knew the rules, I counted it as a full count if it was supposed to be a full count. So those will need to be adjusted accordingly.
By the way, I think that may be the section of the code that this relied on to say that they would accept naked ballots in the absentee context, in the mail-in ballot context, because that rule applies for provisional, so. Okay, there's always cases, right?
We have 39. We have, this one is a partial count, not the legislators, though. Everything but the legislative office. So this is full count. SU 17 of the
You
reject,
don't need to.
not registered or registered in another county.
Okay, so what about these? Are these all done?
Well, now we know the answer. See, so I didn't enter these.
But you'll leave them back. Right. So that you can enter them.
Just this one. That one's marked. Yeah, so that one I'll need back since we now know as long as the two signatures. Okay.
Yes.
Who's that one that had that?
This is it. She
Yeah,
wants
but
it back.
this is not something, this is
Right.
a legal thing. I'm assuming this is back to you.
And to be clear, the screenshot that was part of that other package is,
It says that.
yes.
Yeah,
I
this
just want to
is,
make sure that we have that.
Yeah.
That is
this would be something I'm guessing for Betsy and she can fill y'all in.
Well, we'll discuss it here.
What precinct is this one right here, Joyce?
29, State College,
Okay.
East Central 2.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of, many of these are not in the secrecy envelope. I'm feeling a lot of these are just so, we can flag this judge of elections for training of making sure that they're putting it in the secrecy envelope.
Sure.
Okay.
So. That's answered, but she needs that back to enter.
Yeah, that's why that one's flagged. That's, and I didn't know, and
She needs it back.
that's why I flagged that one. Do you want to hold on?
Or enter it.
This has just missing a print.
The answer is, well, the answer is.
Right, but it all it's missing is printed name. That was missing printed name.
Oh, so this should,
It needs to be determined.
But she needs that back.
the problem is it's not in the secrecy envelope.
Oh, well, then there you
that
go.
when we
Yeah, but-
open
Okay,
it.
Yeah,
before,
we can't determine that now.
before you move on, this belongs in this precinct. Just talk to Betsy about it. This particular voter has already cast a ballot in Bucks County,
Oh, that's just
and
one.
she has a provisional. So to me, that's a legal issue.
Okay,
Oh,
so
well.
So this, she has a vote counted in Bucks County, and she did a provisional. So technically, this will not count, but
right,
it's still casting.
so we have somebody here.
Concerned because the promoter attempted to
Essentially,
pass 2 ballots.
Like, I do solemnly swear or affirm that any my name and date of birth I explicitly find my registered and reside at the address and have provided about the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And this is my only ballot that I have cast in this election.
And that's why you guys are getting it.
Nice.
Yes. Which continues to be my concern with the other discussion as well,
Well,
because,
it's a moot point, it's a naked ballot, so.
but the attempt to vote twice.
And it wouldn't count anyway, she's not registered here, but the concern Steve presented was also my concern, which is why it was flagged.
Yeah, and the problem is that record still, you just printed out last night,
That's correct.
shows that she voted. So it's not as though she was rejected or anything else or
Yeah, so,
canceled.
so she's not even registered here.
No, she is
So that-
not.
Yeah, so when she's signing that she's registered voter here.
She's not.
I have more, I mean, it's not good that she's doing this, but I think I'd have more of an issue if it was a registered voter in Center County trying to do this. And if it was,
Well, the district attorney may turn it over to that county.
and if it was a ballot that was contained in secrecy envelope. So for a practical purpose, it's not great that she did that, but that vote wouldn't count. Anyway.
Board can make
Oh,
that
yeah.
decision.
I can see.
The vote will not count.
No,
That's not the question.
So we don't have
The question is whether or not the intent of
that's up for you guys to decide how you're proceeding or if you're proceeding with that. I flagged it. I'm sure she's probably,
Definitely.
I think it should be referred to the district
I might need this one
attorney's office.
to make
for-
sure I
He
have
can
it
make a
rejected.
decision how he wants to.
Yes.
handle it.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
Is there a statute that dictates what you must do when somebody tries to vote? that gives you guidance on how to do it?
How to vote more than once?
No, if somebody votes more than once, is there a statute that gives you
Under the-
guidance on how to?
Under the
deal with
election
that?
code, any of those assertions would be addressed to the,
That's
So it's
why
not really a board decision.
not,
They
Well-
vote.
yeah, we could just turn it over to the district attorney, you're right.
our decision, our discretion involves whether or not we're going to enter it as a valid
Ballot.
ballot.
Right, and
We
once you
make the-
determine you're not going to, then that's right, then it can go elsewhere.
Now, I will, do we know when Bucks County credited her vote?
No, I can only see certain things, but it's definitely whatever she was issued for this election.
I
As
know.
it dated 11/3/2020.
You can't see when her vote was credited?
No, but it should have been credited, it shouldn't have been credited any later than election day,
But when did you check that?
last night.
Yeah, my point, that was my point in saying that her, not as if maybe post-election they had credited her as saying it was rejected and canceled as was in the guidance. There was none of that as of today.
And much like the gentleman in precinct 3, where we're not, to my knowledge, we're not referring that to the district attorney, correct?
Which one?
The gentleman who didn't put 6 provisional, he didn't properly put the 6 provisional ballots into the envelopes. We're not referring that to the district attorney.
I think that was a matter of negligence.
Well, I would agree, this is also, I think, a matter of thing.
We could refer both of them to him and let him make that decision.
Why don't we do that, please?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, we have precinct 30. She does not have notated how many provisionals are here. However, we do have 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Rejected.
Yeah, but I should have this one too then, what was the other one?
I'll let it go to the to pick up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full count ballots.
6 rejections for various reasons, either registered in another county, not registered, et cetera. And this is also a student precinct. I'll go up to number 43.
And then well, those are grouped for you, Joyce, by reasons and stuff.
Precinct 31, Stakeholders Westland. They have noted 9 provisional ballots. And there are indeed 9 ballots.
I think it's last name.
Right, I was considering it as, I think, a full count, it's just the name's different.
Okay, we have 1, 2, 6, 7, 8 full counts.
We'll take a look at
Is that a full count?
that. It should be.
Then they're all full counts.
That one's full count, right?
This one is full count.
And then if you guys are okay with it, I'll just take the copy of the voter record.
Oh, yeah, the address matches, she just update her name. Yeah.
I have no problem with them, but I don't know how critical, that's why I just put notes and.
You guys make the decision. Or make the
Yes,
decision.
no, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, those good.
Precinct 32, no provisional ballots.
32 had none. Really?
Precinct 34,
Do they-
33 has been eliminated.
Yeah, just out of curiosity.
Oh, right.
Does the judge still fill out a provisional ballot folder and say 0?
And that is essentially.
Okay, good. I just.
Yeah, and
I'm
I
not
figured this
notated
thing
on
out,
this
but.
one, but we do have 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 provisional ballots.
Starts off with a partial.
So we have 1 rejected, 1 partial, and 7 full count.
Partial.
That's our 5 Union Borough.
Unionville Borough had none. 36, which is Benner North, have noted that they had 13.
So just a quick question. This one says voter's name is not on the list.
Mhm.
Do we do anything to go back to the
Is it
full
rejected or full count?
full count?
It is on the list. That's what they're marking. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're marking the right thing. Sometimes they actually ask for a mail-in ballot and like they were marking stuff all willy-nilly.
Yeah, let me just, my thing is, I just would want to make sure that they're checking they're not on the list and they actually are on the list. Again, going back to the,
And I think part of it this time too is those split poll books, Michael. I think it caused some confusion because there was A to Z in the first half and then A to Z again in the second half.
So we have 13. And there are 13.
We're actually gonna need another bin
For the poll.
for fullness. Big bin.
Well, full count and 1 reject incomplete affidavit. Precinct 37, Benner South, they have noted 12 provisional ballots. Yeah. I thought my count was 13.
You were correct.
Okay.
Put a special case on top.
Well, that one is a provisional, but it was fed in the machine. And no other ballot cast, so
So this one will need to be,
removed. So they actually do have 12, as they moved the actual. They used a provisional ballot that went into the machine, and they did not vote in any other ballot.
and it did it counter?
Yes.
No, is it full count? It's a full, okay.
what's it say there?
But we won't be counting. It's already counted in the tabulation for election day.
Okay, so the ballot's not even in.
No, that's just to let us know.
What does the stamp say?
There's no indication
Yeah.
there.
Okay, so this is indeed a valid.
Provisional ballots will be read in the machine. I mean, the machine does.
Well, no, I'm just saying, so,
That one's supposed to be in the machine.
They didn't vote any other ballot, so it's,
is this?
that's just to let us know they did
It
that.
does, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have to move it out.
So, do we pull this one aside, or do I put it in the bin?
We'll have to wait till Tisha states whether or not that was a full count or not.
And all 12 are full count. Bob's East, precinct 38, yes.
Okay. We're gonna take a brief break here.
Well, Seth, you just from a timing standpoint, we're at which precinct?
38. 38.
Yes, for 38, we have 56. We have a bulk that are going to. Yeah, we're probably halfway through maybe. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, they just have a precinct.
Well, petition only has 56.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Bob's
Why
East,
don't we, just to finish this one, I guess.
we have 6, and there are indeed 6. 1 is a reject, not registered, and the 5 are full counts.
Betsy, does it matter if they didn't sign in the box? Does it specifically say they need to be signed in the box? Or is it just 2 signatures?
There needs to be 2 signatures. What about either the provisional ballot envelope under clause 3, which is the post-signature, or the affidavit under clause 2, which is the pre-signature, is not signed? Looks to me like they've signed both places.
But not in the box.
There's nothing in here, the statute that talks about a box.
Okay.
This one here, I don't know, would it have been a full count?
If it was fed in the, if fed in the machine, yes, it would have been a full count. He didn't sign there, but can't take that back.
Okay.
So yeah, it
would have been a
properly
full
would have been a full count had we been able to vote traditionally.
Okay. I'm sure they'll ask me that, so they can do whatever they would like.
We need another sticker, Mike, that's full.
Let's add 1230
Oh, we
yesterday.
do?
Yeah, but there's the number breakdown, so you have this marks.
Okay.
She keeps updating them as they come in.
Okay, thank you.
So before you guys go on, Mark comes back, we should address this one.
Yes, sir, the one without a postmark, that was given to us by the USPS.
I would have to look, but I'm assuming yes.
That's the count. This is even for the received after 8 p.m. Received by 5 p.m.
This
yesterday.
one, yours
So
is
that's
probably
the
more
total.
updated.
It's one
Those were
without
just
postmark.
numbers from 12 something yesterday. And Michael, that one, we could look at the timestamp because it might have been before November 3rd, and they might have gotten more crazy with it getting closer to that. I mean,
But
it
then
should have been, I'm assuming it was too late without a postmark or not, because you guys would have had it at the Penn State or account.
Let's wait to the end, rather.
Oh, no, I just
and that's,
pass it
and
around.
those are,
Yeah, but I think we
those are
should
down the road.
Oh, yeah. This is more just.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Here's the one that was fed in the machine, but we don't have the ballot. What do you want this to
You said would have been.
It would have been full count, so I'll keep I just want to make sure I have all these entered into the portal so they can, I mean, he already knows. But just that they're all accounted for.
And you have a new bid back there.
Oh, good.
That I already marked.
Okay. We're all set?
Yeah.
All right, so we have one rejected.
So, let's go until or 11 o'clock. I was just- Those
West Boggs, precinct 39, says she has 10.
Somebody was asking on the camera. Yeah, right next to Steve is Joyce McKinley. Joyce McKinley. Somebody wanted to know who's talking with Steve right off the side there. So.
Wait, and there are 10. And they are all full count. Precinct 40, Burnside Township. There's 2 there. There are 2. One is a full count. This is, she had to sign and was put through the DOS 200 by mistake, so therefore it is counted in the election day total. And it would have been a full count.
So this doesn't need addressed.
Yeah.
It was a full count and drive-through, so.
It just mistakenly had it put through the machine. Precinct 41, College North has noted 18 provisionals.
Wait, just a quick question on this one, Tisha. Are we still going to be pulling this out of the machine? No, we're not.
You wouldn't have to because if it is deemed that it was a valid full count, I mean, yes, it was done erroneously in the procedure, but it still would have been a full count that you guys would have been fully counting today.
So when we on the unofficial report on Tuesday, right, how many provisional ballots were counted, which column would this be?
That's going to be your election day because it was counted on election day.
But don't we do provisional ballots counted?
Whenever we certify to the state, it's one number.
It's not, we don't break out provisionals?
They just want to know whole, like, totals.
Okay.
No, it doesn't get broken
I
out.
just
I just want to have
don't-
ours credited,
I
right?
just don't want anybody coming back saying you've got 500 counted provisionals, but the state's only showing 497. Okay, all right.
College Township North 41, 18. As noted, there are 18 envelopes.
We have a question here about, were there more people put on inactive status this year than not? Or,
Well, they would flip to the inactive on an odd year. So they would have had to have missed 16 and 18. In 19, they would have hit inactive. That's if you're going through the traditional process. If you had people come back undeliverable, which you probably had more because you had a change in polling locations for multiple student precincts. So there would have been a lot marked inactive because there was a lot of cards coming back because they're not there anymore.
so it's not necessarily, we didn't do anything to.
We just do what we are required to do.
This one has signatures on both ones. It's just missing. Marked as rejected, but it has signatures on both, so I would suggest that we would count this one.
Yeah.
Correct? Is that right?
So
So
you've got
do you guys
others,
wanna-
though, but you have others that you have one other, Mike, that you noted that you said had signature on both of them back in.
Yeah.
So we'll review them all.
We'll
So we'll
review
review
that.
them all.
Okay.
Yeah, and then basically you'll just have to update me accordingly as to changing the status.
So would it be fair to say on Monday when we go through 57 through 91, we'll probably review these?
I think that would be smart, yep.
Okay. We are in College Task Precinct 42. They have noted that there are 8 provisionals, and we have holding one out for checking to see if there's a
It's either naked ballot
ballot.
or it's something I need to research farther.
are 7 envelopes here. Right,
It just has
she
one
has
for
one for
investigation.
further.
We do have a question on the number of provisionals increased from this year over other years. Do we keep track of how many provisionals are being issued other years?
We have reports. How far back do you find your?
We have binders forever, but upstairs, I only keep up to 4 years upstairs. The rest are off-site in storage, but we always have breakdown reports.
But I think even in the last presidential, was there only
Yeah, there was more this year. I would say simply because if you got, even though you requested a mail-in ballot and you didn't return it, you had the opportunity to go and cast a provisional ballot. Mail-in ballots didn't exist prior to this year, so you could only qualify for an absentee, or you were out of your municipality, or you had a disability that prohibited you from going to your polling location. So the likelihood of those individuals showing up to cast a ballot was very minimal.
It looks like from looking at the check boxes, a lot of people are saying mail-in vote, mail-to-mail-in ballot, but I guess they never received it.
Now, I will let you know, Michael, I don't think the boards or the voters understand what it means about if you were issued a mail-in, you can do a provisional, because there was a lot in the student precincts. It was issued from their county, and they're registered in that county, and the judge marked it, issued a mail ballot, which does not pertain here. So I think there's some confusion on that as to how those should be marked, because those should have been marked not on the list, because they aren't on the list in Center County. It has nothing to do with whether they were issued a ballot from another county.
All right, are we at 44 yet?
We have 43.
Let's do 43 and then.
All right.
She's telling me it's College East, precinct 43. She has noted there are 11. Probably here, don't like it. So, 1, 2, 7. And they are all here.
There's a question about, was there a directive put out about how to do inactive status, what that looks like? Or
How they're flipped to inactive?
Yes,
That's all under election code.
it's election.
Yeah.
It's election.
Yeah. And you can also let the people know that ask about provisionals in the past before mail-ins. Their absentees went to the polling place. So if they showed up, it was just voided, and you didn't have to do provisionals.
Right.
Yep, the good old days.
We have one.
So much easier.
We have one partial count, do not count legislative. One rejected incomplete affidavit, which, yes, it does.
Or the second.
And, okay. 9, that'd be right. Full count.
Okay, when we complete these, we will take a 10-minute break to group, and we'll come back. And precinct 44 will contain a large number of provisionals. So, all right.
I'll look for, you want me to make a motion to recess?
Yeah.
Okay, motion to recess.
Second.
Okay, probably moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Not for a recess.
I'll put a 10-minute recess. Sorry.
11:03. Move forward. 44. Oh.
So Michael, is it okay then for me to take these ones I held out for naked ballots and investigation back over them?
Keep them here for me.
Oh, okay. Oh, God.
Hold on. Oh, everybody,
Oh.
just hold on 1 second. 1 second.
Recording is on.